Hello there, good morning, and welcome to another daily ramble here on Claret and Booze. Before I get started, if you like the show, then please give it a thumbs up, hit the like button, follow us on YouTube, subscribe. It's totally free. Claret and Booze on YouTube. And if you hit the bell notification, you'll be advised as and when we go live or upload any shows. This is going to be a complete waffle on because I, like many, was absolutely disgusted with the performance against Spurs on Sunday at the NFL stadium. And, you know, we've all been talking all day. I've been reading various articles, and there seems like apathy is setting. And I don't mean apathy amongst the fan base. I mean apathy within the club. And it's the only reason that I can think that we're getting such tepid and weak performances. Now, I went to the Tottenham Hotspur NFL stadium on Sunday with my son, expecting the usual humdinger of a London derby. Not only was it a London derby, but it was a London derby against a team that we love to hate, Tottenham Hotspur. All right? Let's be honest, there's no love lost between the two clubs. Game started fairly well. First half, we were fairly in the game, defended well. We had a very early chance from Bowen, and Souček surprised me. Souček was actually playing very well and probably my man of the match for the first half. However, the second half started and straight away we was making mistakes. We regressed. We became tepid, scared. We looked frightened. We weren't putting any challenges in. And to me, it became one of the worst London derbies I think I can ever remember. Okay? Now, both teams were going into this game in poor form. All right? Both teams going into this game where they know a win was needed. Now, obviously Tottenham come out with a win. But we didn't help ourselves. I've never seen a game, West Ham Spurs, without a tackle going in. I've never been so embarrassed leaving that stadium after we went 2-0 down, watching my team, who are basically now going through the motions. That game to me looked like nobody had a clue what to do. And I don't just mean Moyes. I mean the players as well. Nobody on that pitch rolled their sleeves up and put a shift in. There was not 1 ounce of fight throughout that team. Players who I would usually imagine would run through walls, like Ogbonna and Rice, to name a couple. Everybody just looked... everybody, it was like 11 rabbits in the headlights. I walked out of that stadium and a lot was on my mind. You know, I couldn't for the life of me, I couldn't work out where was the fight in that team. You know, a lot's been made about Declan Rice being captain, and that was probably one of his worst performances for a while. But, you know, Mark Noble, if he was on that pitch, would have run through walls yesterday. He would have been putting tackles in left, right and centre. He would have been doing the dirty work. Declan pulled out of a couple of 50-50s. I don't know if you noticed that. I'm sure you did, but it was the most turgid display in a long, long time. And we've seen some crap this season. But to me, even if you're not performing, at the very least, what you need to do is roll your sleeves up and put in a fight. Fight for that badge. Fight for your professional respect. Fight for yourself as a player. It seems like we've given up. It seems like we've accepted the inevitable. And, you know, that game, there wasn't 1 yellow card in that game for a West Ham player. There wasn't 1 yellow card from a West Ham player playing in a team that is fighting for their lives. Now, I know Antonio got booked, but that's because Kane made a meal of it or cheated, which you're probably not allowed to say because he wears the England captain's armband. But apart from that, not one player got booked. Now, look, it might sound odd that I want my players to get booked. Of course I don't. But in a game like that, not only a London derby, not only against the scum from North London, not only in regards to the situation we are in within our league position, there wasn't one tackle of note. Not one player got angry. We rolled over and died. We fell away with a whimper. Now, of course, Moyes is to blame with the setup and the negative tactics. But if I'm a professional footballer, when I go on that pitch, I'm playing for my manager, okay? I'm playing for myself. I'm playing for the fucking fans. You're telling me that game looked like, to me, it meant nothing to some of them players. And it's all very well coming over to the fans and clapping them, you know, and thanking them for turning up. But I'd rather you did it in the 90 minutes. I'd rather you kicked someone up in the air in the 90 minutes to show you give a shit. I left the game early, as I said, which I'd never do. But I was just at a loss. I was with my boy. You know, it was our first visit to that NFL stadium, as I say, but, you know, and it wasn't a good one. Not just because of the result, but once again, the weak performance of everyone yesterday. Everyone. It wasn't until I got home that I saw Declan had a bit of a standoff with that Hoiberg, but that was in the 95th bloody minute. That should have been going on from the minute one. They were there for the taking. But what happened? We came out second half and we rolled over and died, and nobody put in a shift of any worth, of any note. And it just, to me, it seems like a pandemic at the club. I've said for weeks, you know, Moyes is only there because the board are weak. Moyes is only there because the board haven't got any balls about them, right? Sullivan is an absolute mug, right? Because at the end of the day, well, maybe we're the mugs. He hasn't got the balls to do anything, right? He doesn't put no pressure on Moyes. And I don't think them Moyes puts any pressure on the players, because them players weren't playing like they gave a shit. And to me, it's like a pandemic in that club where I can't put my finger on it, right? Is it an acceptance of relegation? Is it an arrogance that they just assume that they're too good to go down? Because we know that that's not always the case. Go back 20 years, 2003, with that team that we had, that we went down with. It all comes from the top. And if the fact is Sullivan and the board have allowed Moyes to remain longer than he should have, let's be honest, with one win in 11, he should have been gone by now, of course. But the players are probably looking around and thinking, oh, David's still here. Mr. Moyes is still here. Our jobs are fine. You know, we ain't got to worry. And it all stems from the top. But why would the board not have acted by now? You know, and there's been articles released today, you know, one saying he's safe and, you know, he won't be going anywhere. Another one saying that he's got the Forest game to see how he gets on. If he wins that, he'll be all right again. But what happens if we draw? All right. On Talk Sport all day, I've listened to the same news item on loop saying that sources at the club are backing Moyes and they've got no plan of changing the manager yet. Why? You know, what are the board seeing? What is Sullivan, the supposed West Ham fan, seeing that makes him think something's going to turn around? Because it may well turn around. But the risk you're taking after one win in 11 seems to suggest to me that you're not really bothered if we get relegated. Now, that may sound odd, but, we've done some digging. We've been talking about it all day, and, maybe Sullivan ain't going to sell up. Maybe he's not interested in selling the club as we think. Because if he was, he'd be fighting tooth and nail to keep us in the Premier League, no? Maybe they're prepared for relegation. We've heard that they've forecast what relegation would look like. And it's not as bad as we as fans think. Because, especially in the first season, you still get the parachute payment. You'd sell off all your main assets, i.e. the players. Declan Rice is near on 100 million straight away. You can imagine the fire sale that would happen and the money that would be brought back into the club. And in that first season alone, Sullivan he'd probably have cash on his hip. He'd probably have money in the bank. And not only that, but the rent that we pay on the London Stadium, if we were to get relegated to the Championship, would be halved. 50% of our rent would go from 2.5 million to 1.25 million in rent per season. You do the maths. I'm not for one reason suggesting that the board are looking for relegation by design. Of course not. But if they're not that bothered about it, then they're not going to act. They're not going to act. They're not going to get rid of Moyes when they should have already got rid of him. So is Moyes really under pressure? If Moyes isn't under pressure, are the players really under pressure from the manager? And that, to me, would explain, as far-fetched as it sounds, a certain amount of acceptance, a certain amount of I'm all right, Jack scenario. If there's no pressure from the top, there's no pressure on the manager. And if there's no pressure on the manager, there's certainly no pressure on the players. And that could excuse some of the piss-poor performances that we've seen this season. And again, I don't mean results, because we're West Ham. In most of us at our time supporting this club, we've seen more defeats than wins possibly. But the one thing we ask for is a bit of fight, and there is no fight in that club from top to bottom. Everybody is devoid of ideas. No one's got a set of balls that run that club. It's all about money. Why should I be surprised? I don't know. But Sullivan, you're meant to be a West Ham fan. And what you're allowing to happen is the club to possibly get relegated on your watch whilst you sit there and accept it, whilst you sit there and almost do nothing about it. The best bet for us would have been Sean Dyche. That ship sailed. If we lose to Forest on Saturday, which, to be honest with you, I can most definitely see, especially after Sunday's performance against Spurs and others. If we lose against Forest, Moyes has got to go. He should have gone already, but he's got to go if we don't beat Forest. Even if we draw, he's got to go. Who would you have in? I don't know. We've been talking about it all day. There's not a lot of choices out there. But to be honest with you, at this precise moment, anyone would do. For me, temporary managers, temporary coaches, whatever you want to say, I'd have Nolan. I'd have Nolan with Noble. They both have played for West Ham. They've both captained the club. They both know what the club's about. To me, a change is as good as a rest. We need something to change now. But you know what? It's not gonna, because those at the top don't really give them monkeys if we're in the Premier League or not. If we go down, they're prepared for it. There's no fight at that club anymore. And I think you're starting to see that the fans now are more unified this season than ever. I think the majority of the fans now are as pissed off as me and as Nick and as Gary, and as I'm sure you lot are. But until something changes, performances aren't going to change. until someone gives a shit at the top, the players on the pitch ain't really going to give a shit. The players on the pitch are not playing for themselves, let alone the club. And are they playing for the fans? I don't think so either. Nobody knows what to do. We are up shit creek without a paddle at the minute. It's a rudderless ship. I can come out of all the famous sayings, all the phrases you want, but I just don't know what's going to happen with this club. It's sad to see, but why would we expect anything less? Right, look, I'm going to go because, as you can see, I'm absolutely still pissed off 48 hours later. If you've liked the waffle that I've gave today, my daily ramble, not that you'd like it, I suppose. It's been a bit negative, but there you go. There's not a lot of positives out there. Until we get rid of the mug at the top, this club will always be a joke. If you like what you've seen today, then please hit the like button. Subscribe to Claret and Booze on YouTube. And if you hit the bell notification, you'll know as and when we go live. Look, I'm sorry, but things ain't looking good at the minute. Can it get any worse? Yes, it can. And I'm hoping it won't. But we've got to try and do something. So thanks for watching. Enjoy your week if you can. And let's hope give better. Gary will be back at some point this week with the Daily Ramble. My name's John, a.k.a. Virgil. Come on, you irons.